We're gonna look kind of off towards the light a little bit.
I like that one.
I like how the light's in your eyes. So. Hey y'all, I'm Jared Lees. I'm a photographer from the Akron, Ohio area, and I mostly shoot portraits. That's kind of been my thing lately. So today we're going to talk about 5 simple tips that anyone can do to improve their portrait game. And most of them don't even have to do with a camera. So let's just go ahead and dive into this. My first tip is to explore your part of the world. Do some street photography. Get out, find places with cool light, cool textures. Maybe they're public places, but they're not like overly crowded. You know, maybe it's a park, maybe it's, I don't know. I'm gonna go and show you these photos here, and I'm gonna tell you that all the photos in this are from one session that I did here with Corday. She's a beautiful model. Kind of just getting started modeling, and we were working on some portfolio shots and just kind of collaborating on some artistic ideas. But all of these shots were within a half block radius. You know, I don't think we walked more than a minute to each spot really. So let's dive in. This first spot is just, it's kind of my go-to spot for headshots. Just a really easy place to do portraits, especially if I'm doing like a super quick session. I want to get in and out in like 15-20 minutes. It's a great place, you know, especially in the evening. It's over by the Akron Art Museum, if you're familiar with the area, but there's just a lot of natural occurring shade. There's cool textures, there's cool lines. There's a lot of areas just by the Art Museum there that lend themselves to some really cool photos. And these first few shots were all right there at the Art Museum in one spot. So that kind of leads me to my next tip, which is to talk to the person you're working with. Not just, you know, hey, how you doing? What's up? Let's shoot. You know, like get to know them a little bit, especially if they're, you know, shooting with you for the first time. You know, find out how their day's going. What are their interests? You know, ask them about themselves. People, you know, want to feel important. You know, you're taking pictures of people, and it helps to kind of make them feel relaxed if you can kind of just relax with them a little bit. So talk to your models or your talents, and if they're your friends, talk and have fun. It's going to lend to better photos. That's actually my third tip here that we're getting into. We're moving right along. We're trucking through these. My third tip is the best shots often come kind of in unexpected moments. They come in between, you know. So this was kind of like, I was happy with this shot. It was like a nice, well lit, just kind of simple shot. But these next 3 finish the story. I think I was asking her, because she brought her boyfriend with her. I think I was asking her at this point in time, like how they met and their first date and stuff like that. And it just got her smiling and laughing and feeling at ease. And it led to these very authentic smiles that I think are beautiful. And those are some of my favorite shots from that part of the session. All right, let's get on to tip number 4. This is about working the scene. So these next shots, looks like I got 7 shots. We're all at the exact same spot. This first shot from this next section is, I think, probably my favorite of the whole evening. I love the colors and the tones. And I was just kind of going through the moment and getting different expressions and similar framings. And I mean, I've got actually quite a few from that, just 1 minute of shooting, that were different looks, different expressions, you know, and I thought these 2 were a couple of my favorites. But here's a better look at what that scene looked like. We were just in an alley, and you know, if you saw the video behind the scenes there, just kind of like a little alley behind a parking deck, and there's these boards that are all dirty and gross and you know, it just made for a really cool backdrop with the textures and everything. So work around the scene. You know, you can change your orientation. I love shooting portraits and landscape. I don't do that as often for the social media posts that I do because, you know, Instagram's vertical mostly, and phones are vertical and blah, blah, blah. But you can change your lenses, you can change your, you know, where you're standing in the sun, you know, a lot of things. I did a lot of these shots kind of backlit or side lit, but move around, you know, work the scene. I'm gonna get onto the next spot here. And these next few shots were all within the same spot too, and totally different angles. You know, this was kind of dead on. The light was mostly coming from behind her here, and you can see it on her face and this side of her body. I will say, I'm not afraid to add light to scenes, even if it's just a tiny bit. Both of these spots here, I used this light kind of as a fill light to get some separation between her and the background a little bit. Then I shot more where she was backlit, and I had this kind of hanging up above me on a pole. You can see it there behind me in the video. Just to get some catch lights in the eyes and shine some light on her face. Here is, you know, same thing, but because she's turned a little bit more away from, you know, from me, it's more side lit here on the side of her face from the light that I was using, and then the backlight is the main light, kind of, because it's, you know, the sun. And then here I moved, the sun is over here. You can actually see up here in the top of the picture, my little Gorilla Pod thing holding my light up there. I should probably have removed that, but I didn't. All right, these last few were all shot at a different location, and just once again, kind of still within that half block radius. But that leads me to my last tip. Every lens, this is the only really gear related tip that I'm going to give you. Every lens is a portrait lens if you use it for portraits. So I love shooting wide angle. I love a 21mm lens. That's kind of my go-to for wide angle shots. For this shoot, I'm using for this shot, I'm using the Thypoc, I think it's Thypoc, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. 21 1.4, it just came out, and I'm actually gonna start working on a series of videos here soon once I find some models to help me with it. If you're a model in the Akron area and you wanna help, please contact me. Or if you just wanna shoot, let's do it. But anyway, the series that I'm gonna do is one model, one pose, one location, one lens or focal length, 10 shots. And I bet you could do more than that, but all these things kind of tie together. And, you know, I think it's important to not just like get a shot and be like, okay, cool, and then be done. Like if you have time to work with the model, you know, take your time, work your angles, you know, shooting wide and low. You know, she told me she was 5'8", and that was without heels. She was taller than me with the heels on. And, you know, it just kind of lends itself to this heroic look. Shooting wide from up high is a different look. You know, shooting tight in with a wide focal length is a weird look, maybe not the most flattering, but could lend itself to something interesting. All sorts of things you can do. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to just pick a lens and go out and say, this is all I'm using, and stick with it. You know, a lot of us get obsessed with different lenses and trying to use everything on a shoot, and I find sometimes it's just easier to focus if you pick one and go. Now that's not what I did for this shoot, but it is something that I have done before, and it is a super handy thing to be able to do. All right, so those are the 5 tips that I have for you today. I hope they were helpful. They don't require you to buy any gear. Even if you knew these tips, you know, there's something that sometimes you need reminded of, or you can practice and get better at. You know, it's always a work in progress, and some days you're going to do better at some of these things than others, and you're going to remember or you're not going to remember. I know that when you're doing a portrait session, a lot of this stuff flies by and it's hard to keep track of everything, but these are some easy things that you can make sure you're doing to make yourself and your model feel comfortable and to end up with better pictures at the end of the day. If you like this video, comment. If you didn't like it, comment, whatever, it helps the channel. If you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe. I'm just getting started with this. I'm just gonna have fun. And check me out on Instagram at Jared Lees Photo. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.